Hello, Cancer. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. All right, Cancer, let me just say that first of all, you guys aren't the only ones to face this. I think that everybody goes through this in one way or another. This feels a little bit defensive, but I also think that if the past is repeating itself and you know that you are not the same person that you used to be, maybe we need to get a different perspective on how to handle this situation. So I think that for some of you, this is going to be one of those things where your current situation, whether it's work or your relationships, is going to look very similar to what you have already experienced. And for you, it's going to make it harder for you to let go of what has happened before. But you are no longer the same person because of what your past experiences has taught you. So you can't go back to yesterday, be in the present, and then you have observer. Observer is saying that you need to take distance from this situation in order to gain a different perspective. Very much like the hermit hangman type of feeling. But you can't go back to yesterday. This talks about how you are more than your past. You have evolved and changed. You're no longer the same person that you used to be. But that's because of a past that you've experienced that has changed you. But because of the situation I think you're dealing with, you may step back. You may step back into a person that you don't want to be again. Because the other part of it talks about living in the past and constantly speaking about past events. But I don't think that you're doing this intentionally. I think it's the situation that you're dealing with. If it didn't look so similar, I don't think that you would be, taking a step backward and going back to a place that you don't want to be in. But Observer is saying that in order for you to make an accurate assessment on what's going on, you're going to have to take a huge step back and stop looking through this. Stop looking at the situation through your own personal lens and the way that you saw things as far as how the past went. Because it's not the same. This is different. But in order for you to look at how you're going to move on from this, like I said, you're going to have to take a big step back and look at it very differently. And it kind of shows up with this too. Now, let me just say that with all this craziness that is going on in astrology right now, I think that everybody is preparing for this big event with this super wolf blood moon that's happening. Everybody is preparing in their own way, but for you, we're gonna eclipse the past the fuck out of our lives once and for all. And I think that is what you are preparing for here. Now, that could either be completely getting rid of a situation, or it could be looking at it very differently and deciding to move forward in a better way, where again, we're no longer holding on to the past. So surrender to the divine, the full moon. It says, I'm getting the answers I need, which you will when you take a step back. It says, a wish you made may be about to come true. It's make or break time. There could be a sense of madness in the air. Breathe deep and stay calm. Yeah, I would say so. And I think that that's true for everybody right now. It says you may need to forgive someone to release negative energy. And last but not least, it's time to let go of the past and move on. And I'm going to leave it at that. So oh boy. All right. So after that, though, you do have the Three of Cups. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to get this where you can see it. So with this being where you're coming from, this could definitely show that some of you may have been dealing with, third-party situations here, gossip, cackling hen syndrome, as I like to refer to it as. But with the Emperor, we're trying to get control, but you're getting control in a way where I think that you have been very stern about not letting somebody else have control over, how you feel about what's going on, especially if there are other people involved, which can be the case, right? Now, for some of you, looking at the Three of Cups and the Nine of Cups, we could be being, a little bit too indulgent, maybe, right? And now we're getting control with the Emperor. But I feel very, stern. I'm stepping up and I am taking control now. I've had enough of this. With the Page of Cups being the overall here, I think that for some of you, I don't really think that it's about you, but I do think it's about, emotions that are being restored, and it's about whether or not we're going to accept a new offer here and possibly, rebuild a relationship or restore things, which can be the case. But I do think that maybe some of you are dealing with a situation where you may be questioning your own emotions. Maybe we were a little bit too naive about something. Now, this could also show that for some of you, there is the communication of emotions. And that could be either you sending that communication out or receiving it. Now, with the Nine of Cups as the past, though, that could show that you have everything that you could ever want. There's this happiness that came through. You finally had your wishes fulfilled, right? But we're also talking about you being clear about what it is that you want and how that's going to shape, your life moving forward. But I kind of look at that and think that at some point here, there was a lot of happiness. You had exactly what you wanted. When you move into the Seven of Wands, though, I think a lot of you are looking at, what is it that you are fighting for? The Seven of Wands definitely talks about like how we kind of like draw the line in the sand. This is what we won't deal with anymore. But you're not backing down. You're not going to let opposition, throw you down here. And with the Queen of Pentacles, it could be about a person that you're dealing with here. It could be male, female. We could be talking about an earth sign here. But I feel like the emotions in regards to this person are very strong, very strong. Now, for some of you, absolutely can be career, but there's too much emotional stuff going on. So I think it's about a personal relationship that you have with somebody where there may have been at some point in the past other people involved. But we may have gotten control over that and got exactly what we wanted, but we're continuing to have to fight for this. Now, with the Queen of Pentacles, in terms of what you're internalizing, this may be one of those things where you want to feel secure. But you also want to feel like, not so much that you're continuing to be in control of a situation, but more so that, you can handle what's going on. There's a sense of, I'm not giving myself fully to this. That's what I want to say. I'm keeping my independence and I'm keeping my ability to make sure that my physical world is under control. But I have to wonder, though, how secure you actually feel with a person. And I think that, yeah, with the Page of Cups here, maybe we've been a little bit too naive about, giving into our emotions. And I only say that because you move into the Eight of Cups, where it's like, I'm done doing this. I'm done fighting for this. I can't continue to do this. I need to feel secure, and I need to make sure that I can handle what is going to happen next. And you may very well be in a relationship where you feel like, there's not a whole lot of support coming through, because the Queen of Pentacles, I kind of look at her as she doesn't need anybody to help her. But we're also talking about you being very realistic and practical about, what you expect to see here. But your emotions, though, the emotions that are being restored, there's a lot of questions when it comes to this. But again, it could be because you're dealing with somebody who's very emotionally naive or isn't very able to speak their emotions. So when you move into the Eight of Cups here, again, we're talking about like needing to move on. Though I don't think that you've actually done it. I think that some of you may be contemplating this only because of, what's going on here with this Page of Cups. So clearly you've invested a lot of your heart into this, and you fought for it, man, and you've had to fight for it. But was it worth it? Now, looking at the Three of Wands, I think that in terms of, your advice here, if you are the one here who is, trying to like restore things in a relationship, this may be one of those things where waiting to see how things are going to develop may not be the best thing to do here. I kind of look at this as you have already set something into motion here. Now, typically with the Three of Wands, we're watching things develop. You know, things are starting to take shape. We're looking at the bigger picture, the future here. But I don't think that waiting is the advice here. I don't think that you should wait. I think that this is, you need to look at, and again, like I'm seeing the telescope observer, you need to just kind of look at what you've already seen happen with this situation. And I think that that is going to help you in terms of whether or not to move forward here. But with the Five of Cups being your hopes and fears, the thing is, you know, there is this feeling of, my heart feels heavy because I look at that and think, I don't want to hurt again. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be let down. And I think that you're expecting it and fearing it. That somebody is just not doing what's necessary to, you know, restore this relationship. It's like they're not putting in the effort. You are, and you have sacrificed a lot emotionally for this. And I think that with the Four of Swords coming out, first of all, if we're talking about communication, I think that this is where we're going to be taking a break. You know, we just need a sense of peace, a sense of calm. I don't necessarily think, you know, like ghosted here. I think that this is going to be one of those things where you just need to take like a time out here and really, really consider whether or not this is worth investing into anymore. But I don't think that waiting is the right advice with that Three of Wands. I think that you need to look at what you're already seeing with this situation. But I feel a lack of security and emotional security. I think that the Queen of Pentacles can show that you're really like showing a brave face here. But I also think that you're making it very clear to somebody that you will take care of yourself first before you let them hurt you in any way. But the thing is I think that that's what you're expecting to have happen. And I don't think that you want to see that again. You may have, you know, wanted to have this relationship, this person in the past, but is it really worth continuing to fight for if you're feeling like it's not giving you what you need? So now in terms of the Eight of Cups, I don't know that you really feel like this is the best option. I think it's considered, but I don't think that you look at it as something that is realistic right now. And I think that may be why we're kind of like, we're cutting off the communication, yes. But I think that this is why you're kind of like going into this place of, I need to just think about this for a minute. But it's not like, you know, overthinking like the Nine of Swords here. We're peacefully contemplating what is the best action forward. But you're going to have to take a break from your own emotions and the situation here and possibly someone before you get that different perspective, right? So with the Knight of Wands here and the Nine of Cups, you know, very clearly here, we're acting immediately based on passion and what we want. You know, and again, I feel like, you know, emotions are being restored, and not only that, but the passion, but we're also being blinded by that passion and that drive to get exactly what we want. When it comes to whether or not it's worth continuing to fight for, like I said, this is like, I will put myself above you if this situation doesn't go in a better direction. And with the Fool, I look at that and I think that, you know, first of all, you may be looking at your past actions like, you know, I jumped into this a little bit too quickly. But I also think that moving forward here, you're not willing to take any more risks. I don't think that you're, you know, especially with the Queen of Pentacles there, I don't think that you're ready to just, you know, go with this on blind faith because of the Seven of Wands. And the way that it moves into the Eight of Cups. And again, with the Eight of Cups and looking at the Seven of Cups, right? Like, you know, it is an option. It is an option right now for you, but it's not being realized. And I think what you're doing is thinking about, well, what is potentially going to happen if I take this option? Is it something that I want to make reality? Am I actually going to move on from this? And again, right, make or break. It's either, I kind of feel like for you, it's one of those things where shit or get off the pot. And, and I say that for you because you're the one that's sitting back here and thinking about this. Although for some of you, yeah, you may be looking at the person that you're dealing with going like, come on now, but I don't think that it's up to you to take any further action on this situation. I think that, it's really up to them. And I think maybe, there is a need to kind of like see what they're going to do. I don't think that there's this need to wait. Let me just be clear on that. But look at what you already see here. See what they're going to do. But be careful about what you're expecting to have happen. But the thing is if you've already experienced the Five of Cups in this situation, I think that you're almost expecting this person to like let you down. But I also think that this is something that you don't want to feel again though either. And I think that that's what you know. And that's why we're kind of like thinking about this and not really making this Eight of Cups a reality just yet. Because, what is the risk involved? And I do think that you're thinking about, in terms of the future here with the Knight of Wands, I do think that you're thinking about how you're going to have to accept the responsibilities of your actions here. Because this is not something that's going to make you happy. It's not something that is easy to deal with. So that to me, especially with the outcome, is saying that, you're going to come out of this with a new understanding. And that really depends on how the person reacts to you speaking your truth though too. So integration, this is going to be about the mind, the body, and the spirit all going in the right direction. They're all working in harmony right now. So there needs to be this integration here before you can speak your truth. But once you do that, there is going to be an awakening and an understanding of what is going to happen in the future. What is the best option for you moving forward? Do you need to walk away from this? Or is this something that, maybe potentially is not going to be the best option if it's going to hurt somebody or hurt you even more? But you already look like you're moving into a place where it's like, I've had enough. I've had enough of giving to this, right? But I do like the fact that awakening is kind of showing up here with the Four of Swords. Because eventually you're going to come out of this and everything is going to be made clear to you. Who else just had that? Rest and relaxation is essential. We all have a fundamental need to take breaks and then be in the present and dream of the future. When we dream, everything is possible. And that's exactly what you're doing here. I think it's more important that you take a break from the situation and you think about, exactly what is going to happen in the future based on what you already see, right? But again, it's very important to be in the present moment because that is where your power is. But you have to be able to see what you want to have happen in the future. But I don't think that we need to end a situation. I think that we just need to take a break from it for a minute. And again, right, like taking distance here and doing it in a way where, first of all, it's peaceful, but where you can see things objectively. Now, Cancer, if this is about the past repeating itself, what I want to say to you is, especially with that Five of Cups being there, if you know that there's a possibility that you could be very hurt by this and let down by someone, then maybe what you need to look at is how your life will be better if you do move on from this, instead of focusing on how painful this may be for you, for someone else involved. But I don't think that you need to do anything right now. I think we need to wait until that awakening happens when you come out of this, then you will see things clearly. And then you will know whether or not this Eight of Cups is going to be the right thing for you to do, but really consider how much you've put into this emotionally. Is it worth fighting for still?